Yeah, I'm gonna push record, okay?
Yep, we're live.
Okay.
Great, thank you. I'd like to call the meet.
I'm sorry, Lizzie, I don't have permission to record. Can you push record?
The meeting is recording.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners to order on April 21st, 2021 at 1 p.m. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Present.
Commissioner Ryring, Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Present.
Commissioner Lorenz. Oh, Ed, I think you're muted.
Here.
Yep.
Great, thank you. We have a quorum, and so we will just start the meeting. I know that Commissioner Ryring is going to be a little late, so when she comes in, she'll get here when she gets here. So the first item is public comment, and I'd like to open it up to public comment to anyone who would like to comment on an item that is not on the agenda. Do you see any public comments?
No, Commissioner Crawley, I don't see any hands.
I don't
raised.
either. Okay, so I will close public comment and then we'll go to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve, or does anyone want to remove anything from the consent calendar?
I do.
Okay, which item, Ed?
I would like to remove item 8, please.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar for items 1 through 7?
I will so move.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, why don't we do a roll call, please?
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Tom.
Oh, Tom, okay. Commissioner Ryring, Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Aye. So that motion carries. So since normally we take, well, I'm going to just start off with the discussion items in section D. And since item 8 from the consent calendar is a business item for the Harbor District, why don't we start with that item, which is the commercial activity permit 2021 for the Half Moon Bay Kayak Company. So Commissioner Lorenz, it looks like you took this off.
I did indeed. Let me,
Okay.
didn't
Would
expect
you
to
like
see it
to
right
kick
away,
off the
but that's fine. Let me get my notes very quickly. So in the, let's see, oh, here it is. The staff report for 2021. It's in the link. If you guys don't have it, I'll just read you. There was a request going back to, I think it was 2015, to change this to a lease as opposed to whatever this is, a contract, if I understand this correctly. Is that something maybe John or Jim could talk about? Am I correct in my?
Yeah, Ed, would it be helpful if Jim started the discussion on this item
Sure.
with that in mind, with your question in mind?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jim, would you like to kick off this report, please?
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners, and Commissioner Lorenz, thank you for your question on this. We were looking at the existing cap for the Half Moon Bay Kayak Company and took notice that the size of the area in which they were operating was actually operating and have been operating for years, I guess.
Yes.
Is larger than what the cap said, and they were doing more than what the cap said. So we redrafted the cap to memorialize and capture what's actually going on down at the Half Moon Bay Kayak Company, and also to make it very clear that that outer circle where they do have access and use of that area. It's not necessarily exclusive use of that area. It's an area that is open to the public, and the public should be, will be able to still access that area, walk through that area, and have concurrent use of that area with the Half Moon Bay Kayak Company. And they'll work with the public as they access that area. So that's one of the major reasons, is the major reason for bringing this back to the board for approval, because it is a larger footprint on the area of that area. We also looked at bringing them in line with an extra, on an annual basis, of raising the use permit for the land with the cost of living index, similar to other leases that we have in the harbor for equity issues. Lease versus cap, that has been discussed in the past. I don't know, and I cannot tell why it was not determined to go to a lease versus a cap. My perspective on keeping it as a cap is more from a perspective of the cap is much more flexible in the district's ability to cancel the cap if we have to, and if we're going to use that area to ask Half Moon Bay Kayak Company to clear out if we have to. That I have no plans or intentions at this time, but it gives them less of a property interest versus a property interest that a lease would come with. So that was my main reason for keeping it as a cap versus a lease.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I just thought that it was phrased rather odd, the fiscal implications / budget status, when it says revenue will total 630. I don't know. I think that could have been worded better. It makes it sound like 630 a what? A month extra. It was kind of a funny way to word it, and it caught my eye like some massive discount or something.
The revenue is a 30% increase, a $30 increase over last year. And that's per month, Commissioner Matoush. It's $630 per month for the use permit for that land.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have a couple more comments. I think it's great that we have this there. It's a big draw for the folks that want to come and be on the water and experience at least a little bit of the harbor. Do you know if they're required to provide any kind of instruction on safety, are they allowed to take the boats out of the harbor? And is there a role for the harbor district to be part of the discussion on safety and also on protecting the marine mammals and birds that are in the area? I know they've done a really good job of posting some of NOAA's documents on how to be a responsible user of the water, but I'm curious, is there anything more that they've done?
Yes, as required by the cap, and we kind of added to that. They're required to give a safety briefing to every person leasing or renting a kayak or services from their business. They're also required to give a wildlife and critical habitat briefing on how to avoid and to not disturb the wildlife and or enter critical habitats, such as the seal pupping area right now. We don't want the kayaks going in the middle of all that. So those briefs are part of the cap that we require.
Is that cap in the attachments? Don't think I saw that. Maybe I missed it.
Yeah,
Down as attachments to the staff report.
Yeah. So there's coastal development permit, the permit.
Draft revised Half Moon Bay kayak permit.
Okay.
Number 3. And I'll click on it with you, sir.
Okay, thanks.
And it's down in paragraph 6. Towards the bottom of paragraph 6, if I can remember right. Lizzie, pop up if you can tell me it.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
And related to that, is there, it's fine that it's in the cap. I think that's fantastic. Is there any way of making sure that there is compliance? Have we looked at that? I mean, I know that the folks are great, but I think it's our responsibility to make sure that these things are complied with.
I know the harbor master is involved with the safety plan because of the role that the harbor plays in safety. And we can ask the harbor master to review their safety plan and also review their wildlife. And we can provide copies of those to the board if so desired.
Okay.
We'd probably have to do that with all of the tenants that would be, I guess we'd be subject to this. We can't just single out one tenant. I mean, basically, I think, Ed, what you're asking about is enforcement, right, of the permit?
Not enforcement, just making sure that they're complying. It doesn't have to be an enforcement matter. It can just simply be like our guys when they walk the docks at the harbor. You know, if a boat is out of compliance, you just have a conversation.
Okay.
I mean, because I think the rental folks are great, but you know they rely on their employees and things happen. So I think it's just a matter of good practice for us.
Yeah, they do a good job with the safety briefing because it's critical to the success of their
Yeah.
business. What was new was the animal and wildlife. They have been advising it in the past, but this is where it's kind of formal in their cap. And I viewed your question as more to the content of their safety briefing and their animal wildlife advisory, and then how they relay that to each one of their customers. And we can definitely provide that.
Okay, that'd be great. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any
No,
other?
if I can finish out, Commissioner Corrali,
Please.
this Half Moon Bay Kayak Company has been a great partner with us, and they're very willing and able to work with any suggestions that we may have to improve the services that they provide to the public in our harbors.
Oh, actually, thank you for that, because you just reminded me of one other item on this, and that is in the notes. There's a couple of questions about compliance with their coastal development permit,
Yes,
with height requirements, with the kayaks that they have framed up there. It's probably a good idea to make sure that that's in compliance too. So we're good with the Coastal Commission.
understood. And we've talked to them about the Coastal Commission permit and their responsibilities to comply with it.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? So I did see some hands raised for public comment. If there are any members of the public who'd like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand. Okay, I see one person, Christopher Manchester.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Chris. Thanks
Hi.
for being here.
Hi, Commissioner. Yes, I was just going to answer any questions about the safety briefing. If you had any questions about that, Commissioner Lorenas, I can answer that. But yeah, we are very diligent on what we give our customers as far as safety and interaction with wildlife, et cetera, and we're willing to put any documentation we need to assure you in that fact.
I don't have any questions for you at the moment, but I think our staff does a great job with that. And I was just going through this, and since it was on the agenda, it's an opportunity to talk about this. So
Sure,
just
and I think-
working with our staff on that is just, I think that's the best way to go. And you guys have been great on this. So I'll leave it at that for now. But thanks for being there.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I don't see any other hands raised. So I'll close public comment on this item. Is there a motion to approve the revision to the commercial activity permit for the Half Moon Bay Kayak Company for 2021? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Aye. So that motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on to the next item, which is the debt service policy. But you know what? Can we talk about let me move number 10, which is rates and fees effective July 1st, 2021, since that also is a business issue here. And so let's go to item number 10, which is asking us to approve rates and fees amended to reflect an increase of 5% and approve the return check fee of $25 and approve removal of recreational vehicle parking fee for Pillar Point Harbor. Julie, would you like to start off with this?
Good afternoon,
report?
President Chang Crowley, Commissioners. The Harbor Commission approved changes to the rates and fees on June 21st, 2017 for the fiscal year 17-18. The Harbor Commission also approved rates and fees that they should increase by the published Consumer Price Index in all subsequent years. In fiscal year 18-19, the rates were increased by the published CPI of 3.2%. In 19-20, the rates were not increased. This board approved the rates and fee schedule to stay the same because of the COVID pandemic and forgo the 3.3% inflationary increase and add that 3.3% inflationary increase to the 2020 calendar year increase to determine a 2-year inflationary increase. The 2020 calendar year published CPI was 1.7% for a combined total of 5%. So the majority of the fees that are attached on the 3 different schedules, one for Pillar Point Harbor, one for Oyster Point Marina, and one for the event permit fees, have all increased by 5%, except the return check fee is reduced to 25%, which is the maximum allowed by law. The recreational vehicle parking at Pillar Point Harbor was eliminated out of the fee schedule because we eliminated the ability for people to park their RVs in that lot. And there are a couple fees that haven't made it up to the next nearest dollar. So those, as soon as the accumulated CPI for the prior years round up to the next nearest dollar, will increase those, such as the $7 anchor out fee. But I'd be happy to answer any questions on the detail of the attached schedule. There's both redlined and clean copies on each of the attachments.
Okay, to kick off the discussion, is there a motion to approve the rates and fees amended to reflect an increase of 5%, approve return check fee of $25, and approve removal of recreational vehicle parking fee for Pillar Point Harbor?
I will so move if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's fine. Is there a second? Because then we can discuss it.
Second.
Okay, I'm opening it up for discussion now.
One question I had, I'm just curious, do we know how these rates compare to other comparable marinas in the San Francisco Bay Area?
A couple years ago, we did do an analysis of looking at the Bay Area rates and fees. And if I remember correctly, Oyster Point Marina was right at the value of being competitive with the Bay fees. Pillar Point Harbor is unique because it is really the only harbor in this Bay Area that it doesn't have any real competition for
Right.
its location. So we've just been increasing it by 5% per year, or not 5, by the published inflationary increase.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, Ed or Tom?
One of the smaller harbors above us, I don't remember which one it is, has a comparison of all the slip rents for all the Bay Area harbors, if you're interested. I just can't remember exactly which harbor it is.
This is on the bay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That would be great information.
Commissioner Matoush, Commissioner Zemke, that is the standard in which we measure the occupancy rates for Oyster Point Marina. But due to the pandemic in 2020, that number was not published this year.
Okay.
Ed, do you have any comments?
No.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to public comment. I do see a hand raised from Captain Smitty. This is now time for public comment for this particular item. Captain Smitty, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, let me see. Can you, am I being heard? Hello?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. And my name is Captain William Smith. I run the vessel Riptide, CPV vessel Riptide on HDOC. I would like to see these fees not raised. If anything, I would like to see them suspended or reduced. We're facing a major hardship under the COVID regulations, and we've been severely impacted by this. The rates in San Francisco have not been increased. Because of this crippling of our businesses from COVID, we're financially getting into very, very difficult and dire straits. But the other part of this that also is affecting our business tremendously is the reduction of our salmon fishing season. We cannot fish above Pigeon Point until June 24th. And because of that, all the advertising and everything in the whole Bay Area says that there is no salmon fishing. And so our business has been tremendously impacted by this. This is our time of year for us to be harvesting and having customers on our boats for salmon fishing during this season. So our business has been tremendously impacted by that, along with the COVID. So I would ask that there please not be rate increase, or better yet, I would ask that you suspend this for the duration of 2021, at least to allow us to try and remain solvent in our businesses. We are struggling severely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments? I actually have a comment on this. I actually agree with what the member of the public said as I read the report, mainly because I know how hard the small businesses have been hurt. And so I'm just kind of curious, Julie and Jim, if we were to suspend this for the remainder of the year so that businesses can get back on their feet, how would this impact our budget?
I believe that there is about a $4 million operating budget, and that operating budget we've increased by 5% in the budget. So 5% of $4 million is $200,000 decrease in revenues.
I'd like to make sure that we don't, we've got a lot of things in this rates and fees discussion. I believe with the number of things that you adjusted, if you're going to just say something on the increase, But I do want to make sure that the Harbor District does have the basic rules and regulations that you wanted to import, such as no overnight fees, the check fee. So I don't want to lose the whole thing and say the whole thing doesn't exist. But I think that it's up to the fellow commissioners as to whether you want to see rate increase. Is that just a rate decrease on slip holders? Is that every business? I think that that has to be decided.
So basically, it sounds like if we were to take this apart, because there are generally speaking, three parts to this motion, which is to approve the rates and fees to reflect an increase of 5%. Also to approve return check fee of $25 and to approve removal of recreational vehicle parking fee for Pillar Point Harbor. I mean, I'm willing to withdraw my motion for this whole thing and break this one motion up into three different motions, if that makes it easier. I think, Tom, is that what you're thinking might be more clear to the commission?
Yes.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion if you'll withdraw your second.
Withdrawn.
Okay. So what does the rest of the commission think if we were to take each one of those three pieces individually?
I would combine the check and the RV in one, and then ask my fellow commissioners, is this an across the board 5%? Is it just for slip holders? I need some feedback there.
So I'll start off the discussion. One is I'm a slip holder, so I should recuse myself from some portion of this conversation at some point.
Probably.
It's my feeling that that we should have a discussion about how our rate and fee increases are going to affect our
Budget.
our budget, but also our users. And if we can afford, if it makes sense, number one, and then also if we can afford to do this to provide some relief for people that have their businesses affected. And
Okay,
so
why don't
I'm
we do-
suggesting it's a good idea to split it up so that we could remove that piece and put it on an agenda. Unless,
Yeah,
Okay, one, oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say,
Sorry,
unless
Ed.
Julie
oh,
has a
sorry.
good- Go ahead.
I-
Julie.
Yeah, there's
I would
just like
just
this
like-
little delay here. Sorry, Ed.
Yeah.
Julie, go on, Julie, sorry.
I'd just like to make a recommendation that we amend the motion for those two items, and then table this conversation till May, where we can talk about the impact of the leases and we can have actual numbers calculated so that the commission would have all information available to make that decision.
Yep, that's
Okay,
perfect.
so, yeah, so it sounds like then, Julie, you're suggesting that we should make a motion to approve the return check fee of $25 and approve the recreational vehicle parking, removal of the recreational vehicle parking fee for Pillar Point Harbor. Is that correct? And then we'll, okay, let me make a motion, or is there a motion to approve those two parts of this?
Also move.
Is
Second.
there a, okay, so Commissioner Zimke moved and Commissioner Matoush seconded. Is there any further discussion? Ed, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so I will take public comment for that motion right now. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak, this is the time to do so. Now, I don't see any hands raised at this time. Melanie, are there any emails or anything that you're seeing?
Nope.
Okay. Any other discussion by the commissioners for this current motion?
I have a question and somewhat of a request. So that when the piece we're removing comes back up for the commission, since I'm a slip holder, but I'm also a commissioner and I have an interest in the dialogue related to helping our businesses. If somehow you could split that in the agenda in such a way that I can provide my input to area that I'm not conflicted.
Okay, let's vote on the motion first, and then we'll take the other piece, Ed, because I think that's a great suggestion. So let's vote on this motion. If there are no more commissioner discussions here, it doesn't seem like it. Last chance for any comments by commissioners. Okay, let's do a roll call for the current motion. Melanie, would you please read the motion that we're voting on?
So you are voting on to approve the return check fee of $25 and approve removal of recreational vehicle parking fee for Pillar Point Harbor.
Thank you. So let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring, and Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries. So let's take the first part of this agenda item or recommendation, which is to approve the rates and fees amended to reflect an increase of 5%. So Jim or Julie, what's the best way to split this so that Commissioner Lorenz can be included in the conversation, since, with regard to recovery of, just economic recovery and support for our tenants and businesses here? Because I do think Ed's a slip holder, he probably should recuse himself.
Mhm.
And we can work with general counsel and make sure we can do it right, but we'll do Commissioner Lorenz's request has been noted, and we'll try to comply with that.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And I believe we will be able to.
Okay, so thank you for that, and thank you, Tricia, for helping with that. The other thing that I would put out there is this something, Julie and Jim, that maybe the Finance Committee should be looking at if it affects our budget? Because we can kick it back to that committee for that particular item.
If I remember right, we do have do we have another Finance Committee meeting before the May meeting?
We don't have one scheduled currently.
But we can schedule a Finance Committee and bring this back up at a Finance Committee if that's the direction of the board.
Yeah, I mean, what do y'all think? Tom, you're on the Finance Committee as well with me.
I would split it up by the leases and then the slip holders. That way, some of us have an interest there, would not be conflicted. And
Right, but coming back to the Finance Committee as a whole, what do you think?
I don't necessarily see that that's an issue. I think that General Manager Pruitt and Councilor Ortiz will phrase this, and our Director of Finance, in such a way that it'll be easy.
Well, so maybe we don't need it to come back to the Finance Committee and we just put it on the May agenda with the split. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the easiest. I mean, the staff report is here and I thought it was really good. So thank you, Julie. So maybe just split the the item into two parts. And then let's just put it on the May agenda for this sole item into two areas, split into two areas, if that works for the rest of the commission. What do y'all think?
The only thought I had was, I think the situation, I want to be sensitive to the commercial interests that operate out of Pillar Point, but I think Oyster Point is all recreational vehicle, or there's no businesses that I'm aware of that operate out of slips at Oyster Point. So
We
there
do
may-
have, or not commercial fishing, but uninspected fishing charters out of.
Oh, do
Oyster
we?
Point.
Okay.
So that would be affected by this, right, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so what is the commission's wish in terms of just bringing this back on the May agenda, or would y'all like to have this discussed in the Finance Committee?
I think it should just come back to the main agenda.
Mhm.
Okay.
Staff report's already there. And that'll give
Okay,
the public an opportunity to speak.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Then let's not have the finance committee meeting with this on there. We don't have to add an extra one, and let's just put this on the May agenda with the split between slip holders and the other lessees. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that the direction is clear, right?
Yes.
Okay,
It's clear.
Thank
We
you.
understand.
okay, thank you. So now we'll go to item 9, which is the debt service policy, which is being recommended to approve this 4.3.2 debt policy. Julie, you want to
Okay.
kick this off?
The Finance Committee, consisting of Commissioner Chang Corrali and Commissioner Matoush, met on April 8, 2021 to review and discuss the draft debt policy. The committee recommends adoption. Since that time, District Council has reviewed the policy and they have 2 minor recommended changes to that, to the attached policy. In section 4.4, the policy states that it will issue securities on a fixed interest basis only. District Council recommends that we allow for flexibility and replace only with except in limited circumstances. And then in section 4.6, it states that debt service reserve fund be held by the trustee. District Council recommends that we allow for reserve funds to be established and not necessarily held by trustee. Staff recommends that we incorporate District Council's changes into the policy as recommended. The debt policy establishes guidelines for the issuance and management of district's debt and borrowing. The policy confirms the commitment of the District Harbor Commission management and staff to adhere to sound financial management practices. A debt policy is required to be adopted by state law prior to the issuance of debt. The district has been debt-free since fiscal year 2015, 2016. And so this is a policy that would be adopted that would be used for future debt issuances. The template that was used to prepare the policy received the Association of Public Treasurers of the United States and Canada's Debt Policy Certificate of Excellence of Award in 2014 and meets the requirements of the state law. One decision point that was proposed in the debt policy is that for the board to consider is that staff's recommendation with the support of the Finance Committee is to limit the cumulative annual debt service to no more than 25% of the annual revenues. The district's projected annual revenue for fiscal year 21-22 is $12,791,000, which would allow the district to issue debt with combined principal and interest payments of no more than approximately $3 million. And that is close to what the projected revenues are that will exceed the expenditures for this fiscal year. In the event that we do issue debt for this full amount, our 5-year forecast projection that I'll go through in a little bit in the next item, we would have to manage our budget to make sure that we had debt service funding available for future years. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the debt policy.
I'd move that we accept it, although I don't know if we'd like to have our president come back. It looks like we lost her, probably due to computer gremlins.
I would just like to comment. I think it's very thorough, and I didn't read it all, but you seem to cover all the bases.
Thank you.
Commissioner Matoush, Commissioner Zemke, you're right, Commissioner Matoush. There was a problem with the router, and President Ching Karali was dropped off. She is trying to reestablish. And if Commissioner Zemke, if you could take control of the meeting until her return.
Okay,
I have a suggestion. Why don't we wait a few minutes for them to return, since having dialogue about this without them present, since they're trying to be here, doesn't make any sense.
Perhaps you'd like a 5-minute break. Come back at 1:45.
I think that's a good idea, Tom.
yeah, okay. Why don't we just break for 5 minutes?
I'm sorry. My broadband just crashed. I'm not sure where we were. I'm so sorry. Bill, did you take over for a few minutes? You're on mute, Bill.
President Karali, I think they decided to take a 5-minute break.
Break.
Okay, thank
So we
you.
got 4
So I
minutes and 20
think-
seconds left.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm gonna try to get back on. Our broadband just came up. Can y'all see me and hear me? I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
Yes, President Karali, we can
My
see you.
husband was in the middle of a meeting too, and everything crashed. So
Oh,
we have been having these problems over here in this area lately, whether it's the Xfinity problem or now this. We had an AT&T problem as well. So we have a minute left before our 5 minutes are up, right? Thanks for your patience. I feel so bad about this. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's just technology.
Oh, it's weird. Julie, I don't know where you left off with in your discussion or your report, but just start off where you left off. You don't have to start from the beginning.
Yeah, I had finished my report.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
because I had a
I
question.
don't, yeah, okay.
Julie, were you going to mention the slight revisions?
Yeah, I had a question about that. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm going to reconvene this meeting. I'm so sorry. Everything just shut down here. So Julie, thank you for the report. I just had a Jim, you said something about the revisions. What is it that you wanted Julie to talk about?
There were 2 revisions that were recommended by our district council. I don't
Yes.
know if you were still online when I mentioned those 2 revisions. One,
Yeah, I was. And I
okay,
had a question about, I think it's 4.6, and that's, it was
okay,
the trust, I think it's the trustee part of the, let me pull it up, the trustee section. I think I was losing power here when you mentioned the actual revision, which is the trustee section in set 4.6 of the policy, the proposed policy.
right. Right now, the policy states debt service reserve funds will be held by the trustee. There are some circumstances where an entity can create a trust and hold on to their own money, or there are the other circumstances and different types of financing where a trust isn't necessary. So instead of saying will be held by the trustee, we would change it to would be established and leave it flexible to allow for a trustee to hold our reserves or some other mechanism. And we can decide that based on that financing.
Okay. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Tom, I don't know if you have a comment.
Accept the debt policy with the revisions.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'm going to open this up to the public. I don't see any hands raised. Melanie, do you see any emails about that?
Nope.
Okay, I'll close public comment. Any last commissioner comments? Ed? Okay, then let's do a roll call, please. Actually, can you please read the motion, Melanie, since we kind of got cut off?
I actually do not know what the motion is. And
Tom, do you want to make your motion again?
I move to accept the debt policy in its current form with the revisions proposed by council.
Okay, and then there was the second by Bill.
Hmm.
Okay, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring, Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz. Commissioner Lorenz, I think you're muted.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That motion carries. And then we'll go to item number 11, which is the preliminary budget fiscal year 21-22, the operating budget and 5-year capital improvement plan. And it's asking us, this item is asking us to adopt resolution 20-06, approving the preliminary budget fiscal year 2021-22, an operating budget and 5-year capital improvement plan. Julie, or yeah, probably Julie, right? or Jim, both
Yeah.
of y'all. If you want to start off with the report.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So on March 17th, 2021, this board reviewed the first look of the 21-22 operating budget and 5-year capital improvement program. The differences between the first look and the attached preliminary budget, I'll go through what those differences are as we go through this document. If you remember correctly, there was yellow highlighted areas in the first look of the budget. One of the first things we did is we added a couple more graphs in the executive summary. This 5-year revenue forecast shows that we're projecting our non-operating revenues to decrease slightly by 1% per year. That's the dark blue. And then our operating revenues to basically increase in 21-22 by the 5%. What we can do today is we can adopt the preliminary budget, and then once we make a decision on whether we're going to increase fees by 5% or increase certain fees by 5%, then we can update the preliminary budget to reflect the Harbor Commission's direction for the final budget. But anyway, the assumption being made here is that we would have a 5% increase this coming up fiscal year, and then our revenues would level off due to the unexpected changes that might happen because of the COVID pandemic. The gray area is what revenues less expenditures, that would be the annual increase to our working capital. We're moving in 2021 of a projected $3 million increase in working capital until the 25-26, which is a $577,000 increase in working capital. This next graph that was added shows 4 years of actual working capital balances and where we're expected to be at the end of 25-26. So we started off with a little over $15 million in 2016-2017, and we're expected to end 2025-26 with about $12 million. The next change that we made is we included emblems into our strategic goals, and then those emblems are associated with all of the programs and projects and objectives that we're expected to work on for the next fiscal year. And these emblems are used throughout this document. The next item, we included a couple more historic pictures of Pillar Point Harbor in the 1970s. And we've included additional information regarding the county of San Mateo itself. We've added information about the election. San Mateo County is 455 square miles with 20 cities. The population, the principal employers, were ranked as the second healthiest of all of the California counties. We do, however, continue to face housing problems due to overcrowding and high housing costs. Nearly 50% of the renters in the county pay 30% or more of their income on housing. We don't know what the impact of the COVID pandemic will be. We know that people are moving out of the city of San Francisco. There's been still a large demand for housing in San Mateo County. The real estate market is not going down for residential properties, but we don't know what the impact will be in the future or what the future will hold for some of the commercial properties that may be being downsized at this point in time. The next area that we changed from the first look is that we received the actual bill for our election costs, and combined costs will be $438,000. We had originally projected that those were going to be $646,000. So we have a $208,000 positive variance for that. On the flip side of that, there's we had to increase our non-personnel expenditures, $95,000 increase associated with the increase in the SDRMA insurance for property and liability insurance. They've had major losses, wildfires, and other liabilities that are causing this increase. And we also increased our IT expenditures by $32,000 because we need to replace some of our antiquated server, computer, and internet equipment. We've added this information that takes a look at the difference between what our revised budget was and what our current projection is. As you can see, we're doing better than we had expected at the beginning part of this fiscal year. Our operating revenues are expected to exceed the revised budget by 3.28%. And that's approximately a 3.5% decrease in revenues due to the COVID pandemic. But the district's on track to realize less than a 1% decrease. Non-operating revenues are expected to exceed the revised budget by 8.17% due to the district receiving a one-time property tax distribution from the county of $531,000 and a better return on our investments than we had anticipated, along with higher than anticipated cash balances. Salary, wages, and benefit expenditures are expected to be less than budgeted. We had projected a 25% increase in health benefit costs, and health benefit costs only increased by approximately 10%. In addition, retirement costs decreased by approximately $120,000 due to the pay down of the CalPERS unfunded liability of $2.3 million made in 2018. And lastly, the district included funding in the budget in anticipation of being fully staffed. And the projection includes approximately $250,000 in salary savings. Non-personnel expenditures are anticipated to be close to the budgeted amount. And the revised budget included $1.1 million in election costs, while the actual is $438,000. Overall, those changes are expected to add another $2,291,000 over the revised budget for working capital. The next area that we changed is that we've added departmental objectives, measures, and performance indicators. On page 34, you'll see administrative departments, goals and objectives, and those are all tied in with each of the strategic goals. We have one for Pillar Point Harbor and another one for Oyster Point Marina. And then the 5-year forecast has been updated with all of those prior things that I just mentioned. The projection's been updated and the 21-22 budget's been updated. We've also decreased our projection of future election costs based on the actual election costs that we experienced this year. And then the last item that we changed is that we've added language onto page 46 to make it clear that the prioritization of this Harbor Commission and the prioritization of the funding of the projects. So with that, staff is recommending that the Harbor Commission adopt Resolution 21-06, approving the preliminary budget for fiscal year 21-22 operating budget and the 5-year capital improvement program. I guess one other thing that I haven't mentioned is that we did add a summary of the debt policy that was just approved by this Harbor Commission in the policy section, which is right here. And I'll review this to make sure that it's not in conflict with the 2 additional recommendations by district council and update it if there is any mention of those 2 items in the summarization. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
So I'll open it up to discussion from the commissioners. Any questions, Bill?
Yeah, I had just a couple of minor comments. I think on page 16 and 21, it refers to the election. And I think on page, for example, on page 17, it refers to the 2020 elections as District 2, 4, and 5. And I think it was District 1, which was my district, 4 and 5.
Oh, okay.
And then 2023 be 2 and 3 that are up for election. And also on page 21, you need to replace District 2 with District 1 in one of the bullets as well.
Okay.
One question I had, and I'm not disputing this at all, but I noticed in the 3-year comparison summary on page 29, the expenses, under expenses for utilities, in 2021, the projected utility expense was 600,000 and the budgeted was 497. So it looks like they're a lot higher than we had budgeted for. Is there a reason for that or an explanation?
Yeah. It's primarily due to the extra garbage that we've experienced. The garbage removal, we've been having to remove it twice a month instead of once a month.
Oh, okay.
My understanding is that that will decrease next fiscal year back to where it was previously.
Okay.
And that's at Pillar Point Harbor. We just had so many visitors coming in and all of the to-go containers.
It does add up, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that.
Tom?
I believe that we were being asked to accept this preliminary budget. So I'd like to move to go ahead and say, yes, the Harbor Commission accepts this with the revisions so noted.
So are you making a motion to accept?
Yes. With
Is
the
there a second?
Commissioner Zemke pointed out.
Right, with the changes for the election, the districts in the election area. Is there a second?
Well, I'll second that.
Okay, are there, I do have a question, but I don't, Ed, do you have any questions or comments? You're on mute.
I do have some comments. Do
Okay,
you want to ask the
please.
questions first? Or you want my comments?
Either one, whatever is the natural flow of discussion.
Okay, I'll go. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Julie. You did a great job presenting this to us. It's very clear. It's easy to see where things are going, and appreciate the effort you put into it. There's a lot to love in this budget. There's some items, as you know, many of you may know, that put my heart and soul into some of these things, and I'm happy to see them in the highest priority. I'm not going to vote to approve it because there's items that are not in the budget in a way that I'd like to see them, as I said when the budget was first presented. But I want to make it very clear that there are items in here that I'm happy to see there.
You have any questions, Ed?
No.
Okay. I just had a quick question. Julie, thank you again for all the work that you and your team have done. Also, I think Raymond Wong is here too, so I just want to thank him. I know he's been an important part of your team. So we're probably going to have to look at this. So, okay, so I'm thinking back to the item about the item that we were discussing earlier regarding the increase in the fees. So
My recommendation would be to adopt the preliminary budget with Commissioner Zemke's comments, changes to change the District 2 to District 1. And then that will give the public an opportunity to review and comment on it. And then the final budget can incorporate any decisions that this commission might make on the fee schedules.
at our next meeting in May.
Right, so in May, we'll talk about the fees. The budget will be adjusted according to the commission's direction. And then the revised final budget will take those directions into consideration, and it will be presented to the general public for further public comment at that time.
Okay. Okay, so that I'm fine with that. Is everyone else okay with that as well? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to open this item up for public comment. I don't see any hands raised. Melanie, I don't know if you've gotten any emails or any comments.
No.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, let's do a roll call, please.
President Chang Crawley,
Sure, yes, Tricia.
I think that the motion is to approve the resolution, correct? Not to adopt the budget, but to approve.
I'm sorry, yes, yeah, sorry,
And
yes.
I would like to offer one potential change for your consideration, and that is in the final section regarding the notice for the hearing. As you might know, the governor recently announced that he may be lifting restrictions, and that might include restrictions related to meeting in person. So in the final section of the resolution where it says that the meeting will occur on June 16th, 2021 via remote meeting, I recommend that we add "or in another manner as specified in the agenda," just in case the restrictions have been lifted and the Brown Act changes are no longer in effect that govern remote meetings.
Okay, that's a great point. Yeah, thank you for that, because things could change. But then if they don't change, we're still going to be able to meet remotely, correct? or through Zoom or whatever the
Right.
medium we're using now.
Correct. So my recommended language would have it read via remote meeting or other manner as specified in the agenda. So it just allows the agenda to specify how the meeting will occur.
Okay, Tom, do you want to make an amended motion for that to include that language that Tricia has just given us?
That's fine. Yeah. With everybody's, well, we're approving the motion and we've already revised the wording of the entire document. So we're approving the motion, yes.
And Bill, you're seconding that
Yes,
still?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Tricia. Okay, I don't see any public comments, so let's please do a roll call.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
No,
President Crawley.
Aye. So that motion carries. Thank you so much, Julie, for all of your hard work. I mean, it's a lot and it's a lot to juggle, and we appreciate everything that you're doing to keep our district on firm financial footing.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are on item E, which is commissioner comments. So I will open that up, and we've each got 2 minutes to make commissioner comments. Bill?
Oh, okay. I would just, the only comment I have, we had a very successful Oyster Point Marina Liaison Committee with the city of South San Francisco yesterday. Tom and I were there along with the 2 new council people from South San Francisco, Eddie Flores and James Coleman, and covered the agenda very well. And I do thank the staff for producing the annual report, very readable, very well done. One question I had, and Tom may be able to answer this. I was out at the marina on Sunday, and it was a very nice day. And there were hordes of people around, and I noticed a lot of boaters. I mean, launching boats and a lot of activity. And I'm not familiar with what the fishing season looks like or what they're fishing for, but if Tom, you could just enlighten me of why the boating activity might have increased at Oyster Point. And that's my comments.
On Oyster Point, you've got the halibut season and some
Right.
white sea bass are coming in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Ed?
yeah.
Commissioner
Yeah,
comment?
okay. Yeah, you can hear me. I went before the Coastal Commission hearing last week, spoke on 2 items. One was on what's called the LCP, the land use plan for the city of Half Moon Bay. It's part of the local coastal plan. And the reason I spoke there is because the city of Half Moon Bay does have its fingers in Pillar Point Harbor. And also because as a member of the public, I'm interested in the local coastal program that Half Moon Bay has been writing. I've been involved in it for quite a long time. Happy to say that the Coastal Commission resisted changes by some of the developers, and specifically those that would have made it easier for development at Dunes Beach. So the plan was approved intact. Happy to say that was the case. And then the second item, I spoke as a member of the public and not as a commissioner, although it does have an impact on our harbor, and that is the Mavericks contest. There's a contest that's been happening for 4.5 months or so, and it's a photo contest at Mavs. And what I asked the Coastal Commission to do was to require a coastal development permit. The reason for that is not because I don't approve of the contest, but because that's not asking folks that are organizing contests at Mavericks to apply for a coastal development permit. Makes it so that that area of use, which is, I guess first I should say is that it lies within the jurisdiction of the Coastal Commission. And it's important to realize that that area is a public trust. It's part of the public's property, you might say. So my request of them was to ensure that the public interest is taken care of. They should ask any organizer that tries to organize a contest at MAVs to apply for a coastal development permit. And that would ensure that all the relevant permits are in place and that it takes into account the entire community that's affected. That was it. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
So the Pacific Fishery Management Commission approved the recreational salmon season for the waters from Pigeon Point north, and that's June 26th through October 31st. Salmon numbers are down tremendously. It's been a real difficult time to even think about fishing for salmon. So right now we've got rockfish open. The ironic thing is the ocean is extremely healthy right now, but it's so cold. We get days where it's too cold for the fish to bite. It's ironic. You come through schools of fish and they don't want to bite. So we're happy when they do. We do have limited salmon fishing below Pigeon Point. We've been fortunate to have something to even go after occasionally in between these windy days.
Okay, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, so my commissioner comments are going to be pretty short. I think that I think it was the last meeting we approved supporting the Bay Delta plan. So I did speak before at the Bosca meeting and at the SFPUC and just let people know that the Harbor District and the Harbor Board approved supporting the Bay Delta plan, and pretty much kind of summarized our meeting and also kind of summarized the letter from the Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association. One other thing I wanted to mention was Tom Matoush, Commissioner Matoush was inducted to the California Outdoor Hall of Fame. And so congratulations, Tom. Can you tell us a little more about that award? I think that's fantastic. You were apparently the highest vote getter in the state of California. So double congrats. I mean, what is this exactly?
It just had to do with the contributions I've made to California outdoors, hunting and fishing, going to lots of meetings, sitting on commissions. I sat on all the different marine reserve programs and their development. I've guided Fish and Game, worked in a lot of different areas. And somehow, I don't even know how this happens, but somebody put my name up. I did find it ironic that I'm inducted with Kit Carson, and I had to look him up to figure out who Kit Carson was. He was a California scout in the 1800s. Apparently, he had 3 different marriages to people from indigenous backgrounds, 3 different tribes as well. He was an Indian representative. So I came in with a rather unique bunch.
Wonderful, thank you. So how many people in total were inducted? You and Kit Carson and posthumously?
There was 4 total, me, Kit, and 2 others. They developed an under 30 genre, and I no longer fit that genre.
Okay, that is it for commissioner comments. Thank you, Tom. That was the high note of, I think, the commissioner comments today. So we'll move to future agenda items. I don't see anything. Do any of y'all have a future agenda item?
Like
Okay.
a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? Bill, you're on mute. I think I saw your lips moving.
Sorry about that. Yes, I will second that motion.
Okay, is there a roll call, please, Melanie?
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner President Chan Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring, Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
Okay, the motion, the meeting is adjourned at 2:19. Thank you, everyone, for
Okay.
being here. Thank
Have a great
you.
day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.